Welcome, everybody, to the Monthly Movie Dispatch, the show where we get together every month and we talk about our favorite movie that came out this month. What separates us from the other 100,000 movie-related shows is that we're high school friends. We've been talking movies for our whole lives, and we're going to be talking about them even if no one's listening. We're just excited people, excited about movies. So let's get started. It's October now. We're going to be talking about September movies. I'm here with Brandon Bowlby, who's in New York City. So I'm not actually with him, but Brandon, you're in New York City. What's happening, man?
Hey guys, how's it going?
So, quick question, Brandon. Which one's better? Robert Zemeckis' Contact or Denis Villeneuve's Arrival?
Robert Zemeckis' Contact.
Oh, whoa. Interesting choice. Cool.
When was the last time you saw it?
We got Sean Bowlby.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sean.
Anyways.
We got Sean Bowlby in Seattle. Sean, Quentin Tarantino or the Coen brothers?
Coen brothers, I guess. Yeah.
Oh.
Wow.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Derek?
Yeah.
You're in Everett?
Correct.
Spider-Man 2 or X2 X-Men United?
Spider-Man 2. Easy.
Yep.
Easy.
Not easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
Okay. Well, so that was just our quick warm-up. So we're going to get into the movie show, the topic of discussion. So it's, like I said, it's September. Fall. Fall is here. Awards movies are going to be starting picking up soon. It's a horror movie month is just around the corner. But you know what? We've got some unfinished business to talk about, and that is the summer movie wager. We finished it, but we have to go over the prize. And the prize was that Derek, what's your deal? You won the contest, and you had us watch a movie. Do you want to set up the movie? Tell us about what you chose and why you chose it.
Sure. Yeah, I chose The House of the Devil. I want to say choosing a movie is really, really stressful. I was so nervous about what to show you guys. So I kind of just decided on a movie I knew you guys hadn't seen and that I thought we'd have a lot to discuss about. Because I know Brandon's picks weren't universally loved or anything either. So it's definitely a tough gig, Brandon. I'm glad I could share it with you now. So, I chose The House of the Devil by Ty West. Came out in 2009. And I chose it because when I had watched it, I was really just getting into regularly watching horror movies. And I hadn't gotten super far into like that genre. Because before we started doing our horror movie month stuff, I really didn't watch that many horror movies. And part of what drew me to it was just my lack of knowledge of the genre. So as I dove in, there's a lot of bad ones. There's a lot of bad horror movies. And it kind of can be a rough genre to get into. But
well, that's half the fun of horror movies a little bit.
For sure.
How bad they are.
No, for sure. But this movie stood out to me because it kind of took a different route than a lot of the movies always had like a scary concept, and they would explore that and really focusing on like jump scares and stuff. A lot of them feel kind of cheaply made. I think that's part of the genre. It exists because part of its existence in Hollywood is that they generally are cheap to make and they can make a pretty good profit, and they don't have to be good to make money. I think us growing up in like the 2000s, there was just like years where it was just bad horror movies over and over and over again. And so this movie just felt like they were taking a different approach, where it seemed like they cared a lot about what it looked like and how it felt, and just kind of the craft of the movie in general. And so that really stood out to me. And at the time, I think I liked it a lot more than I liked it on this rewatch. But I still like it, and I think it's a cool movie. It's a kind of a unique thing. So I thought maybe you guys would like it too.
Yeah, Ty West is pretty famous as a horror director in indie circles.
Yeah.
And this is one of his more well-acclaimed movies. He's also done The Innkeepers, which I know you really liked, and I know a lot of people really like that one. I'm kind of blank. VHS, I think he was involved in those movies.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he's pretty popular. Who wants to start us off? Brandon, do you want to, I don't know, say what you thought about as the 3-time Summer Movie Wager Whip champion, handing over your title to Derek? What was your thoughts on his movie pick?
Yeah, Derek, this was a really easy movie to watch, probably compared to some of the past ones I selected. I think my nit to pick was the climax for me. I don't think was really big enough to warrant the meandering 2/3 or like 4/5 of this film. However, I think those meandering 4/5 to me were just about as well done as you could do. Like, the characters in this film were so interesting. I loved the main character. I loved her friend. I forget what actress plays that.
Greta Gerwig.
It was Greta
Yeah,
Gerwig.
Greta Gerwig. She was so good, not just her performance, but the writing of that character and how smart and like rational and logical she was. And even all the characters, like the main character who's making bad decisions, but kind of for like reasons that you understand fully. I think they just set everything up so well, and I like spending time with them.
Me and Sean watched it together. Sean, what do you think about it?
I totally agree. I really enjoyed the main character. I kind of liked just watching her do her thing in the house. She was, first of all, before she gets to the house, like her just going about her daily routine and like trying to solve all these problems, these life problems that she has, trying to get money and everything. And then she just kind of is hanging out at this house for a good chunk of the movie. And I actually enjoyed her just wandering around and listening to music and like ordering pizza and hanging out. And it, like, the buildup of that suspense was actually worked really well for me. I forget when the movie took place. Was it the 80s that it was set in, or was it the 70s? Does anyone remember?
I feel like they
late
don't
80s,
say.
early 80s.
I thought it was sometime in somewhere in there. It was made in in 2008, or it came out in 2008, but it was set in the 80s, and it really had the feel of one of those early slasher horror films, like especially Halloween. How in Halloween, it's just it really does meander with the main character for a really long time before anything crazy starts happening. The big difference for me was that in like Halloween, once it does get crazy, it gets really crazy, and Michael Myers is terrifying, and it's actually a pretty long extended horror sequence towards the end. But this one, it did kind of fall a little. Not that it fell flat, because that scene towards the end was pretty terrifying, but it just was so short. It felt like it was maybe 10, 15 minutes at the most out of an hour and a half movie of, just a climax. So that's the only thing for me. But I enjoyed it, for sure. I was actually wondering if, how does I hear that Ty West has a pretty varied career in his horror movies. Does this kind of, because this is the only Ty West movie I've seen, is this pretty typical of his style, or?
I don't think any of them are really similar to each other.
Yeah.
'Cause, this one's got very 80s aesthetic, and then he did a found footage movie, and then The Innkeepers is
Sacrament, right?
Yeah. And then The Innkeepers is not very stylized. It's more of just kind of a straightforward ghost story, horror comedy.
I felt like this was pretty similar to the Innkeepers, honestly.
Yeah.
Maybe not in like look, like the Innkeepers didn't look like an 80s movie, but they were similar in pace. You know, like they like the Innkeepers and this were both pretty slow throughout. What I liked about the Innkeepers was that you had this central mystery of whether or not the ghosts were real or not, and you didn't know. And it's such an indie movie, like it's possible that they weren't. Like maybe you're just watching this horror movie and it turns out it's something else. It's not necessarily something supernatural.
Right. And
they kind of play with that mystery throughout the whole movie, and I really liked the slow pace because it had that lingering thing. And I think, I'm sorry, Derek, but I think I liked this movie the least out of all you guys, which is kind of a rarity in these days. And, but yeah, to me, it didn't have that lingering thing. It was just kind of like, okay, this lady, I didn't really like the main character. Like, I didn't really, like, she was well defined, like, she was a good enough character, but she also, like, I didn't really get her problems. It was one of those things where it was like, okay, so you're a sophomore in college and you need to move out of your dorm because your roommate's having sex sometimes. Like, I didn't really get that whole problem.
It was a little ridiculous how she was like buying an entire house or like renting an entire house.
And to like put herself in such a weird, like an obviously weird situation. I don't know. I just didn't really buy her choices, and so I don't know. I really did like some of the scenes. Like there was that scene where I think Sean mentioned it earlier, where she had headphones on. She was like dancing around her house and stuff. I thought that was like a really cool scene. But yeah, I just didn't really connect to it and connect with this movie. It's like funny because like I've been hearing about this movie for years, and I really wanted to like it, and I feel like kind of bad that I didn't like it as much because I love horror movies, but it just didn't like fully connect with me.
It's fair.
Part of me wonders if I had seen it like years ago, like you did. Like this was my first. I remember you watching it for our first horror movie month.
Yeah.
You, like watched like a bunch of Ty West movies, and it's. Me and you have probably grown so much as like horror watchers. You know, I mean, this coming up is like my 6th year in a row doing horror movie month, and it's always really fun because I like looking back on it. It's like every year I can see where I was that year. It's like, I mean, you could do that with any tradition, but specifically, it's like, I mean, I'm just sitting around watching horror movies, but I mean, it's totally different places, different lives. Like, even just having a baby a year ago is totally different than having a baby this year.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I probably would view it totally different having not been a huge fan of horror from a few years ago.
For sure.
But now I might be a little more critical. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, like I gave it 5 stars back when I first watched it. And it's definitely not a 5-star movie to me at all. And so like clearly when I saw it, it was like one of the best horror movies I'd seen. Now having seen a lot of horror movies, it's like, no, it's just another movie, but I still kind of have that fond memory of it.
Right.
Fun fact:
like
they shot this movie on.
Stronger.
Fun fact: they shot this movie on 16mm film. It was just like right away. I was could tell just how like grainy it was. Really interesting.
I was I even said after we watched the movie, like I feel like that is a movie I easily could have worked on back in 2008 when I just started, where everything that was like when digital technology hadn't gotten to the point of film, and it still wasn't cheap enough for these indie movies to shoot on it. So all these indie movies were shooting on 16mm, and they kind of all had that same look.
Yeah.
I was actually also thinking like this this movie actually works pretty well if it had come out in the 80s when the movie was set. Like I feel like it really would have fit into the post Halloween, post Texas Chainsaw Massacre era of horror movies. Like it would have just slipped right in there, and I could totally see it launching a whole popular franchise of.
I'm kind of assuming, Sean, that's
movies.
probably his idea from the get-go.
Yeah, it definitely had that feel. For sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we should move on. But good choice, Derek. I'm glad you won. It was kind of cool shaking it up instead of watching a super depressing drama. We watched a pretty fun horror movie. So
Yeah.
good times around.
Yeah.
So we're gonna jump into even though we're done with the summer movie wager, we're gonna just go through the September box office just to look and see what was popular. If we were to go 5 years in the future, looking back at September 2019, hey, what came out? What was popular in September 2019? Take a look. The most popular movie, like by far. So I'm just pulling this up over here. The most popular movie by far was It Chapter 2. It made $194 million. So did any of you guys see It Chapter 2?
I did.
Mm-mm.
Nope.
Derek did.
Well, did you like it, Derek? I mean, I know you were a big fan of the first one.
I did like it.
Not as much as the first one?
Yeah, it wasn't as good as the first one, but I don't know. I kind of feel like it has everything working against it. Like, I don't know. It's kind of like the first one was kind of set up to be really good, and it's like, with Stranger Things and all the 80s nostalgia, and it's a coming of age, like, Stand By Me-esque kind of story with a scary clown. I don't know. It just has everything working for it. And this one, it's like, they're all grown up. They already know how to beat the monster going in. And like, it's less, there's no nostalgia factor. It's no longer a coming of age story. We're already past that. It's just like everything that was really special about the first one has been removed. That's just the story. So like, I don't really know. I don't know. I feel like a lot of those things that really stood out in that movie, that really connected with people, have mostly removed in this movie. So it's tough. It's hard for it to be.
Could it have been that
like.
Fukunawa wasn't connected as much with the second one?
I don't know. Like, I feel like
I think Derek's kind of right. I think it was kind of an impossible story to like really, really nail in a lot of ways. It's such a weird story, and the format alone, having it go 80s and the future back and forth, and it's just kind of a whole weird, just kind of a weird story to tell.
I was definitely anticipating this movie quite a bit, and I even rewatched the first one in anticipation for this one, and it came out and it was so long. It was what 2 hours and 45 minutes, and
yeah.
Just kind of wasn't getting the buzz, and I just kind of lost interest pretty quick. So
Bill
I
Hader
never ended up watching it.
Was a really big standout to me.
Yeah, Bill Hader was like the best part of the movie.
He
for
just
sure.
like took
I loved
over
him
the
in it.
whole
He
movie.
was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it. I didn't.
Me too.
I had a pretty unique experience seeing it. I want to tell you guys about it. It was like, it was funny. I don't know. I was gonna go see it, like a 9 o'clock screening, at the theater, just 5 minutes from my house, and right before I left, a giant thunderstorm started. Like, I'm not like exaggerating. It was a fucking crazy storm. Like the UW Husky football game was like they put on pause for 2.5 hours.
Like the stadium got struck by lightning.
Yeah, I mean, like, apparently there were like 250 lightning shots in an hour, and then over the course of the entire evening, there was over 1,000. It was like, I live in a basement apartment without windows. I mean, there's windows, but you can't really, you could see through the crack. We're in the basement. You could just see flashes just going on outside, and so Shannon's going, "You're gonna leave the house, go see the scary movie, and the power's gonna go out." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. Bye." And I just kind of went outside to open the door, and just I've never been one to be afraid of lightning. Like I'm like, the odds of getting struck by lightning, like, yeah, right. Like I'm not gonna get struck by lightning. I was worried. I sprinted to my car as lightning just going off around me. I felt like I was in a war zone. I got in my car. It was just blue in the sky all around me. And I'm like, okay, I guess I gotta drive now. So I'm like driving. It's pouring down rain. Puddles are everywhere. Like my car shut off at some point. Like I don't know what happened. I had to pull over and get it back on. It was insane. And so I got to the movie. I got to the movie and I'm in a crazy haze. I felt like I just went through battle to get to the movie. And I'm sitting. I met my friend at the theater, and we were watching the movie. We're about an hour into it. The power went out. The movie just shut down, and we're all just all right. So what's happening? And you can hear the thunder outside of the building. You can hear crashing and thunder. So even if they don't get the movie back on, we don't want to go anywhere. People are just kind of making jokes around, who's got the biggest phone? Can we turn on something else? And we're just kind of having a whole camaraderie type thing. The funniest part though was that right before the power went out, there was there was just a jump scare. You know how it wasn't anything really scary. It was someone was standing in a hallway and then it was ah, but someone in the back of the theater yelled really loud. The jump scare got them, and they got scared, and then the power went out. And so when they turned the movie back on, they went back a minute or two. So we were all gonna see the jump scare again, and we all knew it was coming. And my friend leaned into me. He was like, $10 says someone's gonna pretend to do that. And then sure enough, there were a bunch, there were 10 people in the theater that all jokingly went and did the scare, and we all got a good kick out of it. It was just a real camaraderie sort of experience at the movies. And yeah, it was super fun. I really enjoyed the movie. I didn't love it, but I enjoyed it. And it was it's probably more memorable for me because of my experience, but it sure as hell was a fun experience.
It sounds awesome. I want to say also, this is the similar experience what I had with the first one. Is it's not very often that we get to see a big budget blockbuster horror movie in theaters, and it's always just a blast. Just feeling the energy of everyone screaming and stuff around you. It's just really, really fun. And there's not, I don't know, outside of maybe the Conjuring movies, and then this. It's really the only thing there is nowadays. So it's just always kind of an exciting thing to get to do. But
so next up on the top 5 of September, Hustlers. It made $81.5 million. I haven't seen this, but Sean, Brandon, I think you guys did.
Yeah, I actually quite liked it. It was I definitely recommend it. It has a pretty amazing cast of really fun R&B and hip hop and 90s pop musicians, and
so more than just J-Lo?
Yeah, it was I had Cardi B, and Lizzo was in it. She's not 90s, but
Cardi
Nelly
B
was
did
in
so
it,
good.
and yeah, she was so good. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of them. And yeah, it was really well paced. It was pretty fun. J-Lo was so cool in the movie. And yeah, it was kind of like a Goodfellas type movie. But yeah, maybe kind of Wolf of Wall Street-ish too, just the extravagant wealth on display. But yeah, I definitely recommend it. I had a ton of fun with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw this movie too. I really enjoyed it. I think this movie is just all about getting the right pace to make everyone watching it have a good time. It's just like a really solid, enjoyable storyline, kind of like Sean said that you've seen before, but done just like, again, just with the best pace possible. And I don't think everything is like, everything might be just a little bit too fun at times. And I don't think like reality's checked maybe not hard enough towards the end. I would have liked to see it get a little more serious, but I liked a lot of aspects of this film.
Nice. I'm really interested in seeing this one.
Yeah, J-Lo's having a time right now. She's making a comeback. She's gonna do the Super Bowl halftime show.
Oh yeah! Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah,
What did you say, Brandon?
J-Lo sans.
J-Lo sans.
J-Lana sans.
Number 3,
J-Lana-sans.
Downton Abbey made $60 million. I don't think any of us saw that.
That's pretty crazy. This
No.
seems like a lot of money.
That's a lot of money for.
I saw
like
the first 3-4
TV
seasons,
movie.
but damn, that's a lot of money.
I mean, that shows how popular that show is.
Yeah. I mean, it hasn't been
I've
on for
never
a while,
seen an
right?
episode of that show.
It was on PBS. That's probably why. I heard
Oh my goodness.
some of the numbers from Downton Abbey on PBS is like Game of Thrones numbers. But it's just like not the same demographic.
Right.
It only had a budget of like $15 million. That's crazy.
Well,
That's
they
killing
killed it then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like that thing you hear like, 12 million people watched Game of Thrones, but then you hear like 60 million people were watching Friends every single week for like 9 years straight.
Right.
Yeah. Network television is
Still
just
watching it
easy
too,
to
man.
easy to watch.
Netflix.
Yeah, for sure.
Number 4, Ad Astra made $36 million in September. Not great, but we're going to talk about Ad Astra later. That's one of our featured reviews for this month. And Rambo: Last Blood made $33 million. I don't
Didn't
think
even
anyone
know
saw
that was a
one either.
movie coming out. I never heard about it until it came out that weekend.
He's
Have you
still
heard of
got it.
Rambo?
Yeah, I never saw a trailer for it. I don't know. It was weird.
Wasn't on your radar.
Kind of snuck in
Yeah.
there.
Was it on your guys' radar?
Yeah.
I knew it was coming out.
Yeah.
I've only seen the first Rambo movie, First Blood. That was before Rambo was in the title. It was just First Blood at that point.
Whoa.
Yeah, the movie definitely
fact.
looked like it was for a very specific demographic.
Yes. Agreed.
My dad saw it. He
Do
liked
you like it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think he said something similar. It was a Rambo movie, but okay.
All right.
So, moving on real quick, we have a voicemail review. So, Eric, Brandon's friend, where does Eric live? Where's Eric from?
Lives in Queens, New York.
Queens. All right. So he went and saw the new Rob Zombie movie. So and sent us a little review for it. So we're gonna play that now. Check it out.
Okay, guys, so Rob Zombie's 3 from Hell. This is the third in a series that started with House of a Thousand Corpses from 2003. An objectively bad movie, but gained a cult following. People just loved these characters who are insane, bloodthirsty hillbillies that murder people. Devil's Rejects came out 2 years later in 2005, and I thought was a very good movie. I've probably watched it a dozen times. It's got a great soundtrack. The characters are good, and it's like an objectively good movie. So then, however many years later, it's been like 14 years, he comes out with 3 from Hell. So it is not as good as Devil's Rejects, but if you really like horror movies, but you just don't think that mainstream Hollywood movies go far enough or are scary enough, like, I've noticed a lot of horror movies in the genre today, it's like always something supernatural, something that could never actually happen, which kind of inherently makes it not scary. There's nothing supernatural going on in these movies. They're just bad people that want to hurt and kill people. So depending on your approach when you watch a horror movie, if you tend to identify with the victims, this movie will make you feel unsafe. If you're more of a, if you root for the bad guy, and then yeah, you probably have a lot more fun watching this movie. It is ultra violent, not as good objectively as Devil's Rejects. So if you haven't seen Devil's Rejects, I recommend watching it first. And if you want to watch House of a Thousand Corpses, knock yourself out. But overall, yeah, not for the faint of heart.
Well, great review. I love that he had the poster for the movie in the background. I don't know where you guys are at with Rob Zombie, but I'm kind of completely on board with Rob Zombie movies. I just watched his last movie, 31, like 2 days ago. And I kind of take umbrage to him saying that House of a Thousand Corpses is an objectively bad movie. Because I really like House of a Thousand Corpses. I do think Devil's Rejects is better. I think it's a really great movie. But those two, the House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects, to me are like so much style, so much weirdness, so much violence. Like just Rob Zombie, like he came out, those were his first two movies, and he just made a statement of like, hey, I'm a fucking film director with that kind of thing. And I know I'm always gonna give him credit just because of those first two. And I don't think he's reached the level of those two, but I'm pretty excited for this one. It comes out in a couple weeks on DVD and streaming, and I'm planning on watching it for Horror Movie Month.
Nice. I didn't know you were such a fan. Yeah, you must be really anticipating this.
Yeah, I wanted to see it in theaters, and they only did a Fathom screening for it, and I found out the day of that it was happening, so I just kind of, completely missed that one. But yeah,
I've never seen a Rob Zombie
about
movie.
how the guy from this movie just passed away?
No.
No, which actor or?
Yeah, the actor. What's his name? Oh God, it's Sid Haig. Yeah, he's like a famous like horror actor. He just died like last week.
Oh yeah, he's 80. Holy crap!
Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah.
I don't know. Have you guys seen Rob Zombie movies? Have any of you guys seen Rob Zombie movies?
I've never
haven't.
seen a Rob Zombie movie.
I've only seen his first Halloween.
Okay, that one's pretty good.
Yeah, he's someone I really want to like. I would love to just spend a week like watching one of like all his movies. Just from trailers, you can see the kind of like texture his movies have, and it definitely feels like a unique kind of gritty, gross, like slimy, like horror movie. And yeah, I don't know. I work with a couple people that are big fans of his, and they've both been really, really anticipating this movie. So it's cool that it sounds like it's pretty good, or at least worthy addition to that trilogy.
What about you, Brandon, Sean? I honestly feel like I feel like Rob Zombie movies just wouldn't be up your alley. I'm not surprised that you guys haven't seen them.
You keep saying that, but like you say it's like style up the ass, so this does have me interested. I had no idea you were such a big fan of the first two, and that's cool to hear. And so, yeah, this would be a horror trilogy to look out for. I'll put it on my list.
Yeah, The Devil's Rejects was so upsetting. Like, it was like it's so violent, and it's like, there's some scenes in it that are like hard to sit through. But, like in a good way, because it's horror. So, gosh, horror is so weird.
Yeah, like that's the kind of stuff you look for in horror, is to really push your boundaries. And the goal is to make you feel uncomfortable or scared or something.
I honestly feel like the Joker comes out next month, and I kind of wonder if there's any parallels between like the Joker and Rob Zombie movies, because there's a lot of face paint, there's a lot of like weird people doing super violent things in Rob Zombie movies, and he doesn't get that sort of attention that Todd Phillips' Joker movie is getting. And I wonder if there's any parallels between them.
I just looked up images for that actor. I already forgot the name. The one who just died. And I saw some images of his like clown makeup, and you saying that definitely looking at Heath Ledger's Joker, or not Heath Ledger's, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, I could definitely see it being influenced by Rob Zombie for sure. Just like looking at the similarities between the makeup for the clowns.
Right.
Yeah, well, Eric, thanks for sending in a review. Appreciate it. Anyone can send in a review. I love hearing from fans or just listeners. Not that you're a fan of us. Whatever. What a weird thing to say. But if you watch a movie and you want to tell us about it, record yourself and send it into our show, and we'll give it a listen. We'll listen to it on air, and we'll talk about the movie. So that movie was 3 from Hell, and it's coming out in a couple weeks onto DVD and streaming services. So let's move on to our feature reviews. We have 2 movies we want to talk about today. The first one is a movie that I want to bring up and talk about. I absolutely loved this movie. It's called The Peanut Butter Falcon. What a weird name. I'm going to real quick read the plot summary from Letterboxd. A down-on-his-luck crab fisherman embarks on a journey to get a young man with Down syndrome to a professional wrestling school in rural North Carolina and away from the retirement home where he's lived for the past 2.5 years. So, that's kind of a mouthful. That plot's pretty crazy. Like, it's such a unique story, and it's perspective and that we don't normally get to see, both in character and in location. That plot summary doesn't mention that this movie takes place in South Carolina in the this area called the I'm blanking on it. It's like this inland area.
A bayou.
It's not exactly a bayou, but it has a specific name. And I'm having a brain fart right now, which is embarrassing, but it's okay. I'll just move on. But it's this swampy area, and this kid with Down syndrome, he hates living in this retirement home because he's surrounded by these old people, but he's just kind of been placed there. And he breaks out in the middle of the night with the help from Bruce Dern, who is his roommate, and he runs off in his underwear. And he meets up with Shia LaBeouf, and who's also just like this troubled dude who like hates his life, and they just kind of set off on this Huckleberry Finn adventure through the swamp, like on the run. They're just trying to get to Florida and get to this professional wrestling school, and it's just like this really fun journey that these guys go on. I mean, the core of the movie is the relationship between Zach and Shia LaBeouf's character. I'm kind of blanking on his name, but the kid who plays Zach, Tyler. The kid who plays Zach is also named Zach. It's Zach Gotteskin, and he's actually a guy with Down syndrome, and he. Like I said, it's like a perspective you don't really see too much in movies. Like the opportunity for people with Down syndrome to be in movies is kind of rare. And it kind of echoes professional wrestling, like the opportunity for someone with Down syndrome to be in pro wrestling, like that, it's fairly non-existent. So,
wait, how does wrestling work into this movie?
Well, he has a videotape from like the 80s of pro wrestling, it's like, a VHS tape that he like watches every day, and it's got Thomas Hayden Church as a pro wrestler named the Saltwater Redneck. And he's just like, Ultimate Warrior style, like just yelling at the camera, like, you gotta live your dreams, come to my wrestling school, oh yeah, just like super, 80s and intense.
Yeah.
And he, so he like, he just wants to get there and, learn how to be a pro wrestler and work with the saltwater redneck, and Shia LaBeouf is just willing to take him because he doesn't really have. He just wants to get to Florida because he's in his own trouble, and they make this connection, and it's just, gosh, their chemistry is just so amazing. Like, they develop a secret handshake that they do with each other. They have this great banter back and forth. There's this one scene that I just have echoing in my head over and over again, where Shia LaBeouf is telling him the rules, rule number 1, don't slow me down. Whatever you do, don't slow me down. Number 2, do this. Number 3, do that. And he goes over his rules, and then Zach kind of starts walking slow and kind of slower than how fast Shia LaBeouf's walking. And Shia LaBeouf turns around and is like, what did I say rule number 1 was? And Zach kind of pauses and goes, party? No, not party. Don't slow me down.
I was wondering if that scene was even improv, or just off the cuff. It was so perfect.
Right. And that's the thing, Zach's delivery is just on point throughout the whole movie. He's so genuine, he's so good, and I think the movie has a lot to say about following your dreams and finding your place in the world, but also how you treat others and how you treat people with disabilities and what people, I think Zach he's such a great character because he really lives his fullest life in a lot of ways. And you can't really live realistically through on a raft in a swamp all the time. That's not a viable future for anyone. But the fact that that he does go on an adventure and Shia LaBeouf treats him like an equal is a lot, and it's a really awesome story to tell and to see. And I do think there are some problems with the movie. The ending is the ending kind of happens really quick, and there are some conventional storytelling elements, but I feel the feeling that I got from this movie and just how uplifting it is, and how much I know it's going to stick with me, kind of makes me want to just forget about any sort of problem the movie might have, and just, I don't know, I just feel like recommending this movie to everybody.
Yeah.
Nice.
I second a lot of things you said. I don't think I'm as strong on the movie, but I really enjoyed it, especially with its hour and 35-minute pace. I think the strongest thing this movie excels at is hour and 25. Damn.
Yeah, I think it was 82 minutes or something is what I saw.
Hour and 37 minutes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, hour 37. So
yeah, Sean, let's interrupt people to talk about how long the movie is.
I swear, I saw on AMC today, it was 87 minutes or something. And yeah.
So I think the strongest thing the character has that you mentioned a few times, Nick, is the two main characters and just their chemistry together. I feel it's so obvious that these two became friends on set in real life. And the fact that a lot of this was shot on location, the scenes with them together, just bonding and riffing off of each other and laughing and getting excited, were just so natural and just made you feel like you were right there with them by the campfire participating. It's just really strong performances all around.
Funny story about them becoming friends in real life. Apparently right before filming started, Shia LaBeouf got arrested, and he was in jail overnight or something, and he had to leave. He left jail, and then went immediately to the film set, and everyone knew about it, and everyone kind of was giving him weird vibes, you're the star of the movie and you got arrested, what's going on, that kind of thing. But Zach was the one who forgave him immediately, and just kind of went out of his way to bond with him, and they just kind of they formed a connection real quick, because and then that kind of dissolved a lot of the tension from Shia LaBeouf fucking up and going to jail. And
Nice.
Shia LaBeouf has said only wonderful things about working with Zach.
Right.
And he, yeah.
I think on top of that, with performances, I do have to bring up the third character, the girl in the film. I don't know if was her fault. I think it was more the script.
Dakota Johnson.
I didn't like her kind of two extremes
Yeah.
she went through in the first half of the movie, and her transition was pretty awkward to me. And then how quick she flips 180 on the other side to go into the last third of the movie. Just that kind of felt really stumbly to me and very unbelievable. And in contrast to how good the other two performances were. So that was kind of my
I thought her
biggest
performance
beef.
was pretty good. I thought,
I
I
thought her
agree. Like,
performance
I
was
think that the
fine.
writing didn't do her any favors.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I was talking about with the conventional kind of stuff. Like, it kind of felt like her character wasn't totally necessary. Like, it was kind of like she was there just for Shia LaBeouf to, like, have someone to flirt with. But on the other hand, like, their flirting was really good. I felt like when he was kind of hitting on her, it was like, you know, he's like this weird swamp person, and like, but he was really charming, and she like was turning him down, but also like enjoying it. And I thought they had pretty good chemistry too, you know. And
Just
there's
that
also
quote,
like
Nick, he's a weird swamp person.
Yeah, I mean,
He
like
is in that
you say
movie.
that.
Like, and there's another scene where he like yells at her for like talking to him like he's, I don't like, you know, like he's talking to her like he's mentally, you know, retarded. And that's what he says. I try not to use that word, but like that's the context he says it in the movie. And she's like, I did not say that, you know, because, you know, she's in social work. She like kind of gets like really offended that he would say that she called him that. And I did not say that. And he kind of is like, no, you didn't say it, but the way you're talking to him. And I thought that was a really good scene too. And that was,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
her being there kind of hammered in like the point of like how she was kind of like what most people are in the world. And she was kind of the everyday person. And yeah, she wasn't written that well, but again, for me, it was like more positive than negative.
Yeah, I actually totally agree with the chemistry between the two main characters. I think like the movie rides on that, and that's really what drives the movie forward. I definitely had some problems with the movie, mostly a lot of small problems. Where any individual problem I had with it, you know, could easily be written off. But it was like kind of consistently small things throughout the movie that didn't work for me. For Dakota Johnson's character, like I almost would have preferred if they didn't. Well, it's kind of spoiler. Never mind. But like. Yeah, like how they, I guess how they end that the movie with her. It was a little too much wish fulfillment for me, and a little forced. Like because you know he's like this swamp guy, like this smelly, dirty swamp guy, and it's just like it just didn't quite work for me. But yeah, and then like. But I actually did think she did pretty well. Dakota Johnson actually did pretty well with the character.
Sean,
I think it looked
that's
really
a great
good,
point. If I can interject, like there's always scenes in movies where couples wake up in the morning and like start making out, and I'm just like, God, no one would ever like this is so unrealistic or something like that. And then this was like that times like 100.
Yeah.
Like this guy's
This guy hasn't
disgusting.
showered or brushed his teeth in like how long have they been hanging out?
Right.
Anyways, so yeah, that kind of stuff didn't really work for me. But yeah, I think I definitely enjoyed the movie throughout the whole thing. Definitely kept me interested. But yeah. Do you think there's any? So Nick, you said earlier that you're like a big Shia LaBeouf fan now. Did this movie like really solidify that, or did you?
Oh yeah, I think we all need to be on the Shia train. Honestly, the thing is, he's one of these actors who got super famous for doing mainstream movies, and it was kind of like, okay, Shia LaBeouf, but if you he's been doing a lot of really interesting stuff. I mean, yeah, he does the do it thing, the do it meme, and he does all these weird things. He does all these weird things outside of acting, which are like, okay, what's Shia LaBeouf up to? He's a weirdo. But if you haven't been paying attention to his film career, you're kind of missing out. Like, he did a movie with Lars von Trier. He did that Fury movie in the tank. Like, he's only, ever since he kind of stopped doing these mainstream movies, he's only done interesting movies. Kind of similar to
Sia music video.
Kind of similar to Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson, where they got super famous from Twilight, and then, they kind of Twilight movies ended, and, they've only been doing interesting things since.
Yeah, it's a great comparison.
Kind of Dakota Johnson, too. Dakota Johnson did 50 Shades, and now she's doing that El Royale movie, Bad Times at the El Royale, and then this one, and I feel like there was another movie she was in recently that I really enjoyed, but I can't think of it.
Shia LaBeouf actually has a movie coming out in November, so it's not coming out till November, but it's called Honey Boy, and he helped write the script for it. Apparently, it's like about his life growing up with an alcoholic father, and becoming an actor. So I don't know.
Him playing the role of his father. That's really interesting.
Yeah, he's his father in it. So
did very well in the indie film circuits earlier this year, Sundance and all that.
Yeah, that's the one I'm actually quite excited to see that movie. The trailers look pretty amazing.
He's actually the only credited writer for the movie, so I think it's just his.
He just wrote the script.
Yeah, he just wrote it.
Nice. Far out.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, that's the Peanut Butter Falcon. Like I said, I'd recommend this movie to pretty much anybody. And the next movie that we're going to talk about is another movie that is a movie.
Word.
No, I loved this movie too, but I'm not going to introduce it. Brandon, do you want to introduce this movie?
Yeah, so our final featured review is James Graze at Astra. The IMDb summary for this film is: astronaut Roy McBride undertakes a mission across an unforgiven solar system to uncover the truth about his missing father and his doomed expedition that now, 30 years later, threatens the universe.
Wow,
so
nice
this
reading.
is an all-in. This is an all-in sci-fi film that I really, really loved. And I think you said this too, Nick, even afterwards. This is one of those movies that really got in my head. I think sci-fi, I'm just such a big fan of that it always does stick around for a while, especially when it deals with bigger concepts like a movie like this does. But I think a couple things this movie is so interesting. I think the type of sci-fi it goes for, it's this almost like very recent present day, like not too far future. And it's also very practical sci-fi. Like, this is trying to depict a very realistic image of space travel within the next, I don't know, it doesn't give a date, but 30, 50 years from now. And nothing is too outlandish. It's just really plain and straightforward and showing you how things could actually go down if we tried to colonize the moon, semi-colonize Mars, and reach the outer solar system. And seeing the way they built the world and constructed that was just fascinating from beginning to end. Also, I think this movie excels, similar to James Gray's last film, Lost City of Z, on taking you on such a big adventure within a reasonable film budget. I can't believe how far this film pushed the main character and where he went. Everyone's comparing this to Apocalypse Now because he just starts in one place, and where he ends up at the end of the film, it's just he goes from point A to point B to point C to point D, and it just keeps going and going, and it just like makes you feel like you've been through so much with this character.
Yeah, it's not just the physical journey; it's also the emotional journey. Like his psyche is going through a lot.
Totally.
That's like the Heart of Darkness element of both Apocalypse Now and Ad Astra.
Yeah. And highly recommended. I can't wait to talk about spoilers with this. I think, like a lot of films, like endings are hard to do. And I have some nits to pick with the ending, but I also have some things I loved about the ending too. And we'll talk about that later. But yeah, I loved Ad Astra.
I'm really excited to get into spoilers with this movie. This is one of those movies where, like, I don't know, really excited to get into it. So, yeah, Sean, you're a big space guy.
Yeah. I really like this movie too. It was definitely kind of just a 2-hour long existential crisis in space. Which was really interesting, kind of along the lines of like Solaris or Sunshine. But yeah, like but it felt a lot more like an adventure, like Apocalypse Now, or not, I guess not adventure, but like a journey, a full-fledged journey from point A to B, like Apocalypse Now, or even Lord of the Rings. Like I kind of got, while I was watching it, I kind of got like Lord of the Rings vibes from it. He's just like, he's going from place to place. So he I really enjoyed how it was dealing with like really interesting themes, and not all of them worked for me. Sometimes I think the movie got a little eye-rolly. And like especially with some of the voiceovers, but I mostly really enjoyed it. I loved the imagery that the movie dealt with, and like there's very specific things like Brad Pitt on that underwater scene when he's just like pulling himself along a cable underwater in like this complete darkness, and it's just like the imagery is so striking in this movie. Or like the just the scene on Mars when he like meets that character for the first time, and like it's just like there's so much striking imagery in the movie that I really appreciated. And then again, like the realism of the movie, that it pretty much keeps very realistic for the whole movie, almost up until the end. And I almost wonder if that's that's intentional. Like it towards the end, it started to let go of certain realism elements and kind of let it be more fantastical or unrealistic. And I think that was a pretty interesting choice for the movie.
I'm curious to touch on that. We'll come back though about that ending.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot to unpack with this movie. I'm just, I think it's important that we all get our initial thoughts out, and then we can get into spoilers and talk about some more of this stuff in detail. But
I'll go real quick, because I pretty much just mirror most what you guys are saying. I really liked it. It was definitely a big, epic, adventure movie. I think it's really cool. Like, I love great theater going experiences. Like that's like when movies are at their best, is when you get to be in a theater and like see something that's so just like awesome, and you know that you're never going to have that experience again. And this movie was just, it felt like one of those movies. And especially with sci-fi, we get those like very, very sparingly. The last one I can really think of is like Interstellar. And I think this movie held its own a lot better than Interstellar did. I think like that they really made it work. As big as this story is and as like far reaching as it goes, it was smart. They kept it really grounded, and I think that worked to their benefit a lot, and it helped us connect with it a lot better, I think. And yeah, just kind of like what you guys said, it has a lot of unique ideas and visuals that I'd love to talk about in the spoilers. So
yeah. So yeah, when I saw this movie, Derek, I love that you brought up the theater experience, because I saw it at the Dolby Theater. Did you see it at the Dolby Theater?
yeah.
So jealous.
I saw it at the Dolby Theater. And there were a few times where I had like physical reactions during the movie. Like the opening scene is so fantastic. Like there's, like the world building in this movie is, you don't know how far in the future it is, but it's far enough that there's a space station that's kind of right on the eclipse.
A space elevator.
Yeah, it's like on the atmosphere.
They called it a space
antenna.
Or wasn't it an antenna?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like an old sci-fi concept that I've heard about forever, but I've never seen anyone actually put it in a movie before.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it was so good. Like it was this whole structure that was there, and Brad Pitt like walks out, and I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever done ropes courses, but I mean, I remember doing a ropes course, and it's a similar concept where there's you have a little like attachment thing that you snap on so you don't fall off and plummet to your death, and so Brad Pitt like walks down on this edge, and the camera kind of goes over his head, and then he just looks down to Earth, and like my feet went numb. I was just like, my feet are numb now. So yeah, that's cool. And then shit goes down, and he's just falling. I mean, I don't want again spoil. We're gonna do spoilers in a minute, but like the opening scene is so good, and the movie pretty much had me completely from then on. I left the theater thinking that it was going to be collectively one of our top movies of the year. Like, I was like, all four of us are going to give it 4.5, 5 stars. We're all going to love it. It's going to be our number one movie of the year. And, I may have gone a little ahead of myself. Like, I started reading a bunch of reviews for it, and it seems like there's a lot of mixed feelings or a lot of nitpicks about it. But, again, similar to with the last movie, I feel like brushing away a lot of the nitpicks. Like, a lot of those things don't bother me because of how much I was into the rest of the movie. Like, the whole journey he goes on. I was kind of saying that, I don't know, other than like 2001, I don't know many other movies that are about the journey into space, kind of like into the unknown. And I loved how his first venture to the moon was like so pedestrian, and there was like an Applebee's there, and then gradually, as he got further out, it was just darker and more intense as he kept going. And Brad Pitt was so good in this movie. Like Brad Pitt, I mean, what a year this guy's having. Just between that and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like, he's really showing his acting chops. And I feel like a lot of it, like this movie, he was so restrained the whole movie, but that's why he was so good. They set it up very early that his like heartbeat doesn't go higher than whatever, like 80 beats per second or whatever. But I thought that was a really cool character trait to show that he like was such an in control type person, but he was compartmentalizing so many different emotions and feelings that he had about other aspects of his life. And I just thought that he carried all of that so perfectly. And the whole journey, I was completely on board with this movie. And I'm excited to talk about the ending and the rest of the movie with you guys. So, with that, should we go into spoilers?
Yeah,
let's do
it.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so from this point on, we're going to be talking about spoilers for Ad Astra. Spoilers.
So,
okay, so where do we start, guys?
Spoilers.
I got it. So
Brandon's
we're all
got this
alone in this universe, and there's nothing out there. And I think that is so cool for a sci-fi movie to flip to the complete opposite of what sci-fi usually is, and deliver that as the final punch. And the way Brad Pitt delivers that with those images and his like monotone voice, it gave me so many chills.
Right, so I was kind of talking to Shannon about this, how, like, the ending is kind of anticlimactic. You know, like, in a lot of ways, like, that's a complaint that a lot of people are having about it, about how the ending kind of, like, slows down, and it, you know, he gets out there to his dad. Tommy Lee Jones is out there in space, and he gets out there, and it's, okay, they have a conversation, and it's just kind of like, it's kind of like a downbeat, you know, it's kind of anticlimactic, but I don't know, I felt like it was a really bold choice to choose to have that be the ending. Like, the movie had something to say, and or it had an ending in mind. This was the end of his journey, and the end of the journey was that Tommy Lee Jones his dad hasn't found anything out there, and you know, that's a lesson to be had. And I don't know, I thought that was like a pretty awesome ending.
Yeah, and I think it was a little more than that. I think it wasn't he hadn't found anything, but they found proof that they weren't ever going to find anything.
Like, he had enough evidence that there's nothing.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing in the
that's it.
visible universe that, you know, as far as we know, and so it's all we have. And like, talking about the imagery from that scene where. Like, when Tommy Lee Jones first shows up, like, he's way up high in the space station, and Brad Pitt's like looking up at him, and he has like this angelic voice, and like, you know, all this time he's spent looking for, you know, another creature, higher power, higher intelligence, or something to give him purpose. And like, this whole time, Brad Pitt's just been looking for him, you know, like, has taken this journey to find him. And then slowly as that scene, like, they transition, like, Brad Pitt slowly comes up to his level. And at the end of that scene, it's just like this really quiet, just two people talking eye to eye. And like, Tommy Lee Jones almost slowly becomes, you know, childlike and kind of, you know, meek and
really innocent.
And then Brad Pitt's like kind of saying, "All right, let's go home," and, you know, almost like you would a child. I thought that was a brilliantly shot scene, and that imagery was so indicative of what the movie was going for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how about that? That flying through the rings with a shield, guys.
So yeah, that's kind of what I was saying earlier. Like, the how, like, later on in the movie, like, so early on in the movie, it's very, very realistic, and it's going for realism, and like the way it's shot, and the way, like, the way it's designed and everything, it's very realistic. And then, like, by the time we get out to Neptune, I feel like a lot of those things were just kind of tossed aside, like the shield through the rings of Neptune, and there were a few things, but like,
so I felt the same way when I was
enough
watching
about it.
Right. So I felt the same when I was watching. I was like cringing a little bit, but I instantly went on Wikipedia, started reading about Neptune, and I came to find out that two things that I thought were wrong. The rings of Neptune are really like dust particles and like pebbles. The diameter of the rocks out there, they're not asteroids at all. It is mostly dust. And also the thing that I found hard to believe is that he could get through a ring on a trajectory that quick. But I guess the rings are very wide, but they're only a few hundred meters tall. And everything about that scene checked out, besides maybe he had to be very accurate in that propeller that was spinning around. But other than that, like, all the physics and science kind of was there. And that was cool to read about
for
afterwards.
me, it was more like he kind of jumps off the spaceship, and as he's going, it seems like he's speeding up. And by the time he gets to back to his ship, he's like going super fast. And then, like, also, like, things like that orbit wouldn't work. That would not be a stable orbit to be below those rings, if that makes sense. Because you would.
I don't know enough about like physics and stuff to like even
like
think
because
about
you would
that.
be as you're orbiting, you would be going every twice per orbit. You would be drifting through those rings and coming. And then that doesn't matter.
Did that take you out of the movie?
Sean's been playing a lot of Kerbal Space Program.
Yeah. Another thing is like when Brad Pitt jumps on that, whatever that is, the radar thing, and pulls off the panel for the shield. Like he's just kind of standing on the radar, not holding on to anything. And then like as he's rotating, you can't just stand on that thing and rotate. It would push you off because it's rotating. The rotational force would throw you off. So he would either have to be holding on really tightly or he would be thrown off. And then like the idea that the explosion would be the main proportion or the main propulsive force that would get him out of orbit of Neptune. Like Neptune is a massive...
Yeah, I wish they had left that explosion line
like that requires a huge amount of energy to get out of that gravity well.
Yeah, see, these are all like precisely things where I'm like, yeah, I don't care about it.
No, I'm not saying at all that this is like this was a problem for me. I actually think that like, and I think it was probably a conscious choice to like towards the end of this movie, towards the end of this like crazy journey to kind of let go of a lot of the realism and the physics of that scene. I thought it was a clever choice because it really, I don't know, it made that that ending pretty unique and very different from the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Real quick, I'm gonna switch to my earbuds because my headphones are dying.
What'd you guys think of the moon chase?
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
I loved that.
It was so like...
See, I think...
Go ahead, Nick.
There you go.
Oh, I really got like almost like Fury Road vibes from like those guys coming in. And I didn't know, it was fun to look at James Gray's filmography because I didn't know he did We Own the Night. And the one thing, the movie's like, it's whatever. It's not super memorable, but there's one single action scene in the whole movie. And that scene has stuck with me since the movie came out like 12 years ago or whatever. Because it's like, it's just so intense and it's shot in such a weird way that just like, it's a heartbreaking, like just intense, in your face kind of scene. And I think he just shoots action in a really cool way. And I thought that moon chase scene was just so cool. And like, I loved that it was just like muted. It was like just like almost a silent like car chase action scene with explosions and like cars ramming into each other and gunshots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just like almost silent. It was just like pure fun, like sci-fi fun. That whole scene.
Yeah, I loved how it was set up too. How it was like, yeah, like I said before, you like go to the moon in such a commercial, pedestrian sort of way.
Yeah.
There's people taking pictures, tourists and stuff, and there's an Applebee's, and then, but like really,
that,
like
actually.
this day and age that they live in, it's like anyone can go to the moon. Like pirates, whoever these people are, built a spaceship that can get them to the moon, and of course there's going to be war over land, and resources. Like of course there's going to be rebels, pirating people. Like of course it's dangerous on the outer skirts of the moon. Of course there's dangerous
The
areas.
dark side of the moon.
Yeah, just the way they set that up and executed that action was just so perfect. Like it was such a memorable scene. There were a few like really memorable like action scenes. Like the monkey in space was
Norwegian
terrifying.
distress.
Yeah, it was pretty scary.
That was
I had
so
no
good.
idea at that scene. There was like 7 different directions I thought the movie was going to go from that point on. It was like, is this like going like supernatural? Like, where are we going with this? The aliens?
Well, the way they filmed it, they didn't show you what was happening for the longest time. So like, it looked like maybe he was being electrocuted or his soul was being taken out of his body by an exorcist. You know, like he was just like floating in space, just like shaking. Yeah. And it was like that could have been anything. And the fact that it was something super realistic, like a monkey, which, you know, humans have sent to space and would continue to send to space, like, all of this is not surprising.
Yeah.
That there would be a baboon, like, you know, gone crazy, running amok up there.
It's pretty freaking scary looking, too.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
I think my favorite scene and action scene of the whole movie was Brad Pitt, like, not pirating, but pirating the shuttle to Neptune.
Oh, Jesus.
And him going on that plane. And it really reminded me of like Jeremy Saulnier's like way of shooting action. Like things just happen, what good or bad, to whoever's like participating in the action.
Right.
And it's like such a clever way of making it not his fault, but still kind of his fault. Like they miss and it hits an oxygen tank, which suffocates everybody that doesn't have their masks on. And it was like just so quick and fast. And I was like holding my breath at just the ideas that were happening in that scene.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like he didn't want that scene to pan out that way. Like he was going, I'm aboard. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. And they're like, well, we got to stop you and probably kill you. And
I think the commander was like, you gotta, this mission's too important.
Yeah, the guy on
like,
Mars was like,
whatever it takes.
Yeah. And just the way that action scene like was shot was, I've never seen a zero gravity action scene like that.
Oh yeah.
Like hand to hand, 0G. Yeah, it was really cool. It was almost like, I don't know how they did it, but it was almost like watching Inception's, like, you know, them flipping in the hallway. Like it was really cool the way, like the creativity of that scene.
yeah.
What was it? It like jettisons its cargo and no one's strapped in.
Yeah.
And she just smashes her face on the back. Like that's just totally by happenstance that moment happened to her.
Oh, gosh, Brandon, what a good comparison to Jeremy Saulnier. Like that would totally happen in Green Room. Like that's how things just
Green
happen.
Room in space, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Speaking of action, the the opening scene when Brad Pitt falls, that was super intense.
Incredible.
Nick, you were gonna say something about that earlier, but you didn't want to spoil it.
Oh, I just didn't want to say too much about him falling or whatever. But
yeah, that's a really cool 0G or not 0G, but like thin atmosphere phenomenon. Like we're talking about the realism of the movie. Like when you're in that thin atmosphere and he's slowly spinning faster and faster because of like the aerodynamics of the upper atmosphere, where there's not enough atmosphere for him to be able to control his rotation, but there's enough to slowly build up the speed of his rotation.
Yeah, and he slowly goes unconscious.
Yeah.
That was
If you've
just
ever
such a
played
great
Kerbal
idea. Space
Space Program, you know that's a big problem in the upper atmosphere.
That scene starts out like really horrifying, but there's a moment there where you glimpse and you see all the parachutes opening up. And you're just like, oh, thank God! Like, it's like just all these people are gonna be like slamming into the planet in 5 minutes. But God, this movie just has some like really good ideas. And I don't know, Brad, you said that's like an old sci-fi idea or something, the antenna, but I love just like how much thought they've put into like, yeah, of course they'd have parachutes. Like they're not crazy. It's not like that's a extreme safety measure to have. It's like, yeah, you could fall to the planet. Like you could have a parachute. But in my head, I was like, all these people don't have parachutes. Like they're all gonna go die.
Right. We just saw all of these deaths just now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a wonderful
Yeah,
film.
no, it was like it was a cool, like, realistic future that they had, and I feel like whether or not, I feel like the key to liking this movie really is just whether or not you're on board with the pacing, the slowness of some of the scenes, and whether or not you're on board with, like, I don't know, his weird existential journey that he's on. You know, I really connected with it. I was totally on board with him, like, getting out there for his dad, and, you know, I liked how manly of a man he was, but how vulnerable he also was, and I thought his character arc was really great, and you know, I get that there's some cheesy parts. Like, I've heard a lot of complaints about the voiceovers and how it's, like, really heavy-handed, but I don't know, those things that didn't bother me because I was just, like, super on board with the movie. And I do think that there's a lot of different ways to read the movie. Like, I think with the ending, there are different interpretations that you can have. So I don't know. It was pretty much what I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Me too.
sure. I was a little worried going into it that it was going to be a little too actiony, because, like, some of the later trailers really honed in on the action scenes, like especially the moon action. So I thought it wasn't going to be that, and until I actually saw it, so I was really pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, great film.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you guys liked it. I noticed I gave it, like, I was texting you guys, I was, like, thinking about giving it 5 stars, and then I ended up just settling on 4.5, and
Yeah.
all you guys gave it 4, so
I might bump it up a half star.
Yeah, I'm like right there in between.
I think I maybe liked it as much as I did Annihilation last year.
Whoa,
So
not me.
yeah, I might have liked
yeah.
Annihilation
I guess
a
you
little
guys
bit more.
really
but
liked Annihilation, but
yeah, they're pretty close for me. Different kinds of stories,
yeah, for
but
sure.
also kind of similar in some ways too.
Like both existential sci-fi movies.
Right, and journeys into something. Annihilation kicked it out of the park with the ending, and
Yeah, for sure.
again, this movie, like, weirdly didn't do a lot with the ending, but, like, I mean, I was on board with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't, like, blow me away or wow me, but I definitely thought it was exactly what that movie needed.
Right. Like,
I
that's what
thought it was
movie-
kind of perfect for that movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it had, I mean, to compare it again to Apocalypse Now, it's like, you know, the character, I forget his name in Apocalypse Now, but he goes on this long existential journey to meet Colonel Kurtz, and it's like this weird, like, monologue.
No spoilers.
Bizarre.
I haven't seen it.
Wait, you haven't seen Apocalypse Now, Derek?
Of course not.
All right, we're done here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it really had a very Apocalypse Now type ending where he meets a guy, they have a conversation, and then
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then he goes home.
Anything else we should say about this movie before we wrap up?
Nope.
Now go see it. It's not
Check it
doing
out.
super well at the box office,
Well,
but it deserves to be seen for sure.
You know, I was just looking at it. It didn't have that big of a budget, and it's doing all right worldwide.
100
actually.
million.
Oh, I saw 80.
It jumped from 80 to 100 after reshoots. Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of a weird movie to, like, recommend to people and stuff. I don't know. I feel like you have to be into space movies. And, like, personally for me, it's one of my probably top few space movies, like, in recent years especially. Like, I probably liked it more than Gravity, The Martian, and Interstellar.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that.
Yeah.
It was
Very
pretty
different
similar
movies,
to
but-
Sunshine in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
but I probably liked it more than Sunshine too. I know you guys liked Sunshine a lot.
Yeah.
But,
Brandon, you just watched Solaris, right? Recently?
Yeah, the original.
Yeah. I had only seen the American remake like forever ago, like in college. I haven't seen the original. Is this at all kind of like have
Not like
notes
the
of-
original, at least. No, that movie is very small and compact and tight.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I guess it all takes place on one space station. Or
okay, well, let's wrap this up. Real quick, do you guys want to say what movie you're excited about for next month? Derek, I know you have tickets for something already.
I'm going to go see The Joker.
All right,
2
this
days?
weekend, right?
Yes. The Thursday night showing
oh wow,
Oh, nice.
in the Dolby
Tomorrow.
Theater. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to
Potentially.
try to see it on Saturday.
Yeah, there is a chance that I'll end up seeing it maybe with you on Saturday.
Okay.
But
Cool.
we'll figure that out.
I'm super excited for Jojo Rabbit, which is Taika Waititi's latest film, which looks
Yeah.
totally crazy and ridiculous. I don't know what to make of it, but I'm sure it's going to be really funny and have a lot of heart because that's what Taika Waititi does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a satire, too, so,
Yeah.
we'll see.
I heard he did no research on the subject before making the movie. Like
Good for
intentionally, he
him.
just wanted to
Good
go
for
off
him.
his assumptions about things.
And
Brandon?
it's probably not going to be very good, but I'm very excited for Ang Lee's new film Gemini Man, which is using crazy technology, like 120 frames per second, new 3D technology,
Whoa,
and
I
really
didn't know
crazy
that.
like body doubling CGI of Will Smith. And Ang Lee is kind of a genius, even if he is experimenting really hard with things. So
Is
Right.
is this his
Like, if
first action movie since Crouching Tiger?
yeah,
I don't think he's
Oh, the
done
Hulk.
an action
Hulk
movie.
came out.
Oh,
after
the
Action
Hulk.
Tiger.
The Hulk. That's right.
Brokeback Mountain,
All the action in Brokeback Mountain.
Cowboys.
Yeah.
but the real movie we're all excited for.
Was Parasite? Is Parasite officially coming out in October? Or is it
October
just like
11th.
for New York and
Getting
LA?
a wide release.
Okay.
It's getting a wide release?
Parasite is
Yeah.
So we'll
don't
actually
know
get
how
to see
wide.
it maybe?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's coming at least to Seattle and certain theaters.
Nice. So
Yeah,
this is the big
Parasite
one.
is the new
The big one.
Bong Joon-ho film, who's also done like Snowpiercer and Okja and in recent years and a bunch of other Korean movies. And yeah, it's getting just fantastic reviews. I honestly don't really even know too much about the plot except that it's been 100% on Rotten Tomatoes for forever, like ever since it started showing up on festivals, and it's already had like 100 plus critics review it, and it's still 100%. And
Got the top prize at Cannes.
Yeah,
it
they won a can. That says it all.
It's already a big hit in Korea. Like it's already made $75 million over there. I mean, I think this movie's gonna be huge. It's gonna be like a big Oscar movie. I think.
Yeah.
At least we're all hoping it is. So
Yeah.
that one's coming out in October, and that one's gonna be big. I also have a ticket to go see Janet Silent Bob reboot. So I'm really excited about that. You know, I'm a big Kevin Smith fanboy. So those are the two I'm excited about: Parasite and Janet Silent Bob reboot. Anyway, that wraps up pretty much this episode.
All right.
Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll be back next month with hopefully our reviews on some of these great movies that are coming out. So
Bye.
thanks for listening.
Some, all,
Thank you.
or none of them.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.